on 7.
Tonight, a warning from the Queensland Premier on how long the shutdown will last. We take you on patrol with police enforcing mandatory isolation in the suburbs. A rethink on coronavirus face masks. Latest medical advice as world experts change their mind. And the sweeping new changes to how EFTPOS will operate, designed to reduce the risk of passing on infection.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Sharyn Ghidella.
Good evening. A stark warning tonight that the coronavirus crisis won't end soon. The Premier telling Queenslanders get used to life in shutdown mode. Georgie Chumley is at South Bank tonight, and Georgie, we could see the city and suburbs quiet for months to come.
Sharyn, that's right. This is the new normal, but it certainly still feels very strange. Here at South Bank, it's incredibly quiet. There's barely anyone around. The wheel of Brisbane has stopped moving, and it's quiet everywhere else too. At Eagle Street tonight, where many people would usually be having Friday night knockoff drinks, there was nobody there. There was a couple of exercises around. At the Valley, where people would be starting to go out and about. Again, it was just desolate. And at James Street, plenty of businesses have already decided to close their doors and cut costs because it's simply not worth it to stay open. Now, we knew these measures wouldn't be short term, but today the Premier gave us an idea of just how long they could last.
We haven't even started to climb the curve. We're about 2 or 3 weeks behind New South Wales, and the peak could be in July, August, September.
Now, the one group of people we did see out and about were people like Uber Eats drivers on their push bikes and Deliveroo. There were plenty of them trying to get some work, but I went up and spoke to them and they said, look, there are lots of us around, but we aren't getting that much work. There aren't that many orders coming in. They've all joined up because they've lost their jobs recently and they're just trying to make some money.
Tough for everyone. All right, thank you, Georgie. Thousands of Queenslanders who've returned home from overseas and interstate remain in self-quarantine at home. To make sure they're doing just that, Queensland Police have been knocking on doors across the state, conducting compliance checks.
Who's there? It's the compliance police.
Basically, we're here to obviously make sure you're home, make sure you understand what the quarantine notice means, that you can't leave the house unless for a medical reason.
Door by door.
Basically, we just need to talk to you about the declaration you made.
House by house. Officers visiting quarantined Queenslanders, careful not to get too close.
Yep, you've got to keep social distancing, mate. It's hard to get used to.
So far in Queensland, 45,000 self-quarantine notices have been issued. Police have checked in on almost 2,500 people, making sure they're complying. 14 fines have been issued to individuals and businesses. For each checkup, there's a checklist.
Making sure you're still in quarantine, making sure you understand what that means and your obligations under that direction.
They also check on health.
You're not feeling any symptoms or anything like that?
And how they're keeping entertained inside.
Netflix, just chill basically.
Luckily that isn't illegal. What is? Allegedly delivering drugs to your friend in quarantine, like this man in Sydney, walking into a hotel with a care package for his mate upstairs. Inside, officers allegedly found MDMA.
If you intend on bringing prohibited drugs into these hotels and providing it to a police officer, there will be consequences.
Tristan Boreas, 7 News.
The home visits are just one of the roles police are fulfilling. The other is keeping people from the rest of Australia out of Queensland. The fear interstate travellers will spread infection or clog our hospitals.
As locals slept, the once invisible border at their back door was lined with barricades. When they woke, it was lined with traffic, a queue of cars stretching into New South Wales as drivers tried to get into Coolangatta.
It's something that I've never seen. I've been up here over 20 years.
All back streets now blocked. Only Queensland residents, essential freight or those with an exemption and border pass can cross at 3 checkpoints on the M1, Gold Coast Highway and now Griffith Street, where officers even searched buses.
It was really hoping to meet my friend and find a job.
Booting this backpacker off, the German tourist sent straight back to Byron Bay. By lunch, 75 drivers had been turned around too.
Just going to the shop, unfortunately not permitted.
At least one didn't listen.
Blatantly disregarding what's been asked of them. Enforcement action will be taken. We've had a vehicle cross onto the footpath to avoid barriers.
That isn't an option out west or at Brisbane Domestic Airport. Every passenger arriving in Queensland from interstate now questioned and ordered to buy a ticket home if they shouldn't be here.
I just had to show my ID and fill in a form.
As we learn the identity of our community's fourth casualty, Toowoomba grandfather Des Williams was a Uniting Church minister, avid gardener and another passenger of the Ruby Princess.
He was that healthy, nothing wrong with him at all. Absolutely nothing at all. So we thought he would come through it fine, but just decimated him.
His wife Bev has now tested positive too. Isolated at home, her family can't even give her a hug.
My mother's alone, basically, sitting there crying. We can't do anything. We've just basically lost, one family member and going staring down the barrel of doing it again.
Queensland recorded another 39 new cases overnight. The total now 873. 8 people are in ICU.
That's our aim, to contain it for as long as we possibly can, but eventually we won't be able to contain it and then we'll start to see that increase.
More confirmation there's a long road ahead. Mac Lyon, 7 News.
In good news for stranded Aussies tonight, Qantas and Virgin Australia have just announced they'll restart limited international flights to help people get home. They'll operate through 4 key hubs. They are London, Los Angeles, Hong Kong and Auckland. The flights will be supported by the federal government and run for the next month. While socially distancing finally seems to be slowing runaway infection rates in the hardest hit European countries, people continue to die. Almost 37,000 lives have been lost in Europe, many dying without family by their side. Sarah Greenhalgh reports for us tonight from London.
Well, a third temporary morgue is currently being built here in London. This one is right across the road from homes. It is the size of 2 football fields and bodies will be kept there until burials can take place. But relatives of the deceased aren't allowed at the site and neither are they allowed in hospitals. They just cannot risk this virus spreading even further. So coronavirus victims, some teenagers and children are dying alone. The UK's death toll is now at almost 3,000 and the latest victim to be named by local media is a 36-year-old NHS nurse, a mother of 3, who has passed away after contracting the virus. We are told she had no underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, the military is helping in one way or another in almost every European country. In France, they are medevacing critically ill patients from the east of the country and from Paris, where the public health system is simply overwhelmed. The death toll in France is almost at 5,500, in Italy almost 14,000 and in Spain almost 11,000 after yet another 932 people lost their lives in the past 24 hours. Here in London, the military will be helping the NHS to run the new Nightingale Hospital. It has now become the world's biggest critical care unit. Prince Charles has just opened up the facility. It was the first time that a royal has opened something virtually. He dialed in via the app Zoom from his home in Scotland.
Sarah Greenhalgh reporting there. Throughout this crisis, global health authorities have been telling us you only need to use a face mask if you have symptoms or are caring for someone who is sick. Well, tonight there's a significant shift with authorities in the US telling everyone now to cover their face.
To mask or not to mask, it seems across Australia that is the question. There are 2 schools of thought.
It's important now to stay safe for everyone.
Are you going to get a scarf or something to cover your face?
If it's got to be done, it's got to be done.
But now the World Health Organisation is reviewing the advice it's had up till now. Consistently, we've been told not to bother.
I'm saying to people in Australia, don't wear masks, go about your normal business.
But today in the States, even President Trump is changing his tune.
And it doesn't have to be a mask, it can be a scarf. Scarf is highly recommended.
This will be the look. So let me lead as mayor and let people know this is how we're going to be seeing each other.
As it becomes clearer that you can carry coronavirus but show no symptoms and still be infectious, the advice for everyone to cover up is becoming firmer.
Even if a face mask is only about 20% effective at preventing infection, it can actually have a substantial impact on reducing the pandemic.
With no end in sight to the shortage of surgical masks, it seems the advice will continue to be to leave them for frontline staff who need them most. So it seems we could soon be being urged to cover up with clothing or other fabric.
Our masks should be for our frontline health workers and for those essential service workers where they need to be in that face-to-face contact.
Evan Batten, 7 News.
The corona lockdown has triggered a boom and bust for Australia Post, with a surge in deliveries and the use of buy now, pay later credit. But postal executives have been forced to take a pay cut as traditional mail-in services drop away.
Usually empty at this time of day, Australia Post sorting hubs are handling record numbers of parcels.
It's past Christmas volumes, between 25 and 30,000 a day at the moment.
Online items in demand include pharmaceuticals up 285%. Department store orders have jumped 184%. So too athletic gear by 28%, while women's fashion has fallen 6%. The big increase, orders for wine are up nearly 200%.
Last night we saw 20,000 of cases of wine alone, which is about 100% week-on-week growth.
How we're paying for all this stuff has also transformed. In 2017, just 4% of Australia Post parcels were purchased with Afterpay. That rose to 11% in 2018, then jumped to 30% last year. With the closure of the major department stores and giant retail chains, there's been a scramble to keep up with online ordering and delivery. And many experts in the industry believe this is how we'll be shopping in the future, just another way the pandemic is changing our lives. Australia Post's traditional business has plunged. Passports down 50%, general mail 30%, international post has dropped, all forcing AusPost executives to take a 20% pay cut. And big deliveries are pushing the envelope.
We're seeing a lot of bar fridges and big exercise equipment, so big bulky items.
Posties are also adapting, with often no signature required to leave parcels. The one guarantee, the mail will get through. Brian Seymour, 7 News.
More than 100 stranded Australians are tonight on dry land. Their virus-stricken cruise ships finally allowed to dock in Florida. After a month at sea, relieved passengers are heading for flights home, leaving behind a country with a frightening new record.
Any port to escape the virus storm. A South American cruise finally ends in Florida.
Hell, we're down the bottom of the world. Yeah. And how do we get out of this?
Carol and Peter among 133 Australians on board Zaandam and Rotterdam. 2 virus deaths and hundreds with symptoms saw other countries turn them away.
I thought I'm going to die on this ship. It's just been very difficult and wondering whether I'm going to see my family and my grandkids again.
In Australia, they were growing desperate too.
Yeah, not having any fresh air for, I think it's been once for half an hour in the entire 2 weeks.
The US insists foreign passengers leave straight away.
Definitely be on a flight heading to Australia sometime tomorrow.
But the crew, including 3 Australians, can't leave. Ashley Perry now stuck on the Zaandam, her mother pleading, "Please don't leave my daughter behind." As the US grapples with a spiralling death toll, the Pentagon has been asked for 100,000 body bags. With the health system now under so much pressure, the tough choices have begun. New York paramedics are now being told when responding to a heart attack victim, if they can't revive the patient, they should no longer bring them to hospital. The economic struggle just beginning. A record-shattering 6.6 million Americans lost their jobs last week, double the week before, 10 million in a fortnight. Compared to the last 50 years, off the chart. A government cash handout is still 2 weeks away. In New York, Paul Carrack, 7 News.
Drones are the latest weapon in the war on COVID-19. Up until a few weeks ago, these drones were being trialled to save lives in the surf. But just like the rest of us, they're adapting. Armed with disinfectant, we could soon see them sanitising public places from the sky, neutralising the chance of infection on playgrounds, outdoor gyms and at schools. Sticking to these social distancing rules may seem overwhelming, but embracing them is about protecting yourself and those you love. Tonight, as we head into the weekend, we have the breakdown of what's allowed and what's not.
So many rules, so little to do, so let's get started. At home, you can have 2 visitors at a time like a relative or close friend. If someone needs to go to your house to work, for example, to clean, babysit or repair something, that is still allowed. That means 3 tradies would be allowed to go to your home to work and you could still have a close friend over.
Always do your best to maintain a 1.5 metre distance.
If you were planning a day trip to national parks over the weekend, don't. Hotspots off limits include Noosa National Park, Beerwah State Forest, including the Glasshouse Mountains Lookout, Bribie Island's recreation area, Kalula at Tiwa Beach and Double Island Point, Crow's Nest, Main Range National Park, Mapleton Falls, Mount Coolum, Springbrook and Tamborine National Park.
People should not be leaving their home.
The only reason you should leave home is for essential goods and services like buying food or petrol, medical appointments, work if you can't work from home, exercise, to visit a terminally ill relative or go to a funeral, to care for a family member, drop children at school or daycare and for court orders. Outside, only travel with members of your household like family or housemates or stick to the 2-person rule like a friend. A trip to the beach is for exercise only, not sunbaking. Heading out on the boat is allowed if you're fishing for food or travelling for work. The key message is don't try to find loopholes and take risks, because the more people you come into contact with, the greater chance you have of catching the virus.
If you come into contact with 100 people in a day, you've got 100 times the chance of getting infected.
For more details, the government has set up a website, covid19.queensland.gov.au. Marlena Wapp, 7 News.
So many people are asking, how will life be different after COVID-19 once change is already here? Limits lifted on tap and go as cash becomes a no-no. A blow to the RSPCA, what it means for abused animals in Queensland. And the cop on the beat in Logan going beyond the call of duty.
Monday at 7.
Oh my God, so beautiful.
TV's most inspiring home reveals are here.
This is even our house.
Bigger reveals, bigger emotion.
You okay? I'm so overwhelmed. Cool.
This is the reason that we went on this show, to give the kids something awesome, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
High Stakes starts Monday at 7 on 7.
I'd like a bar of chocolate, please.
Your change.
Happy birthday, Mum.
There's a glass and a half in everyone.
When unexpected guests arrive, don't panic. Use Airwick plug-ins infused with essential oils. Just plug it in to neutralise smells for freshness that lasts up to 100 days. Come in. Airwick plug-ins.
At Spotlight, life's what you make it, with 50% off Platinum Day-Night Roller Blinds, 40% off Pane Blockout Curtains, and 30 to 50% off made-to-measure indoor blinds. So warm it, shade it, and keep it cool for less. Sale on now. At Spotlight, it's what you make it.
There's an unspoken promise between you and your pet. A promise to always be on their side, as well as by it. To never keep them waiting. To care for them like they care for you. And a promise to make them as happy as they make you. At Pet Barn, we'll help you keep that promise, because our stores are open for your essential pet care needs, including zero contact click and collect and home delivery. Pet Barn. See website for opening hours.
When it comes to dealing with mental health, there's care.
Missed another meeting, mate. Everything all right?
And there's the uncommon care you get with HCF.
Hi, Daniel.
Connecting eligible members to a range of online professional mental health services.
Nurofen Advanced liquid capsules have a thin seam, which enables fast release into the body. To sort pain out fast, use Nurofen Advanced liquid capsules. Unleash the speed of liquid.
Meaning. We search for it our entire lives. The meaning in our existence. Work. Beliefs. Relationships. We're consumed by a need to find it. But it's when we stop searching and start feeling. Suddenly it's there.
Boating, cabin fishing is BCF and fun.
We're currently open and here to help. Or buy online with free delivery on orders over $99. And with contact-free click and collect, you just stay in your car. Nice!
The RSPCA is the latest victim of coronavirus, forced to close the doors of its fundraising op shops and stop animal adoptions. Most pets have been temporarily fostered out for the duration of the lockdown.
We do understand people are doing it tough, but we are really impacted by the decline in donations and obviously through revenue through our op shops, which unfortunately had to close their doors.
The charity's Animal Hospital and Rescue Service will continue, as will investigations into cruelty cases. Tap and go limits are about to be doubled from $100 to $200 to reduce the amount of physical contact at the checkout. It's to limit the spread of the virus, but there are concerns for some members of the community who rely on cash.
Soon you will be able to pay up to $200 with PayWave before being asked to provide your PIN number.
Oh yeah, it's a lot better.
Great idea. Anything that can help, I suppose, limit the contact with everyone.
It's a move made by the Australian Payments Network to help shoppers reduce the need to touch EFTPOS machines and lower the risk of transmission.
I don't generally, but in today's economic crisis, we have to go that way.
We're being encouraged to shop less and be out of the house less, and obviously by shopping less, then we're tending to buy more.
The increased limit will be rolled out in the major supermarkets first before smaller stores, and it also applies to digital wallets like Apple Pay. More and more retailers are only accepting tap and go payments, leading to concerns for those in the community like the elderly who only use cash.
A lot of them don't actually use cards, so this is going to really hit older Australians.
Cash is king, so they get a bit confused by that.
It's a 3-month trial that some believe could kill off cash.
Customers are being pushed to pay with card, and it may be the death of using notes and coins at the payment checkout.
Georgia Comensoli, 7 News.
When the coronavirus began, many were describing it as just another flu. We now know that is definitely not the case. But why? 7's Melissa Doyle explains.
Measles, one of the most highly contagious diseases in history. In fact, before a vaccine was developed in 1963, a single person infected with the virus would, on average, infect up to 18 others. Compare that to another deadly disease, SARS. It caused a global pandemic in 2003, partly because anyone who got it would pass it to up to 5 more people. These figures are what scientists call a disease's basic reproduction number, or its R0. They allow us to describe how contagious a disease is and compare it to others. So what about COVID-19? Well, current estimates puts its R0 between 2 and 2.5, and the seasonal flu just 1.3. That doesn't seem that high, especially compared to measles. In fact, COVID-19 and the flu seem rather similar when looked at in isolation, but they are not. Let's start with the flu. With an R0 of 1.3, each person will infect either 1 or 2 people. After 10 rounds, 56 people are infected. Now let's look at COVID-19. Using a conservative R0 of 2, we'll run through that simulation again. This time the spread is far more rapid. And after that same 10 rounds, the number of people sick now totals more than 2,000. It's tempting to think of COVID-19 as just another flu. But the next time the thought crosses your mind, think back to those R0 numbers and how many people you could save through social distancing.
Melissa Doyle there. A Logan police officer has swapped law enforcement for lawn enforcement. Captured on camera helping an elderly man mow his front yard. Senior Constable Jim Daniels is usually busy chasing criminals across the city, but still found time to make this man's chore list shorter. The humble officer's actions have been universally praised. Bertie checks the weekend forecast next. Plus, will Queensland's tough border restrictions prevent deliveries from the Easter Bunny? And a special tribute to the men and women we're relying on so much.
One of the early Gold Coast's most defining buildings.
It was revolutionary.
Now the focus of national attention. Flashback, 7 News Sunday at 6.
We're a company and an industry that does the right thing.
A breeding ground for the largest cluster of COVID-19 cases in the entire country. From here, it spread out to every state and territory.
Did anyone explain that perhaps the virus was on board?
No.
This ship will be at the centre of a huge inquiry. This email is the smoking gun. Who knew about it and how it put every single one of us in danger?
The Ruby Princess Outbreak Unleashed on 7. The Major Investigation, Sunday 7 o'clock on 7.
The drought in Queensland and New South Wales right now is one of the worst in our history.
Hey, Phil.
When the Trebins farm hadn't seen much rain in years, Alicia helped arrange finance for vital equipment.
Alicia, check this out. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
And they all saw water for the first time in a long time. That's the Suncorp spirit.
Some tests last 5 days. Theirs lasted 2 years with unprecedented access. Join the Australian cricket team as they face the test.
Redemption is truly complete.
Head to Macca's fast, contact-free drive-through if you need a little comfort. And get a 100% Aussie beef hamburger for just $1.50. For your Macca's run, contact-free, we'll be here.
Out there in the universe, stars are born every day. Closer to home in Cobden, Western Victoria, a star is born every second. For over 93 years, our people have put their passion and dedication into creating something bright and brilliant. Not just butter, but a star. Western Star. More than butter.
Everyone knows Volkswagen drivers expect a little more.
Volkswagen. Yes, it's the first word of any new discovery. Telfast helps you say yes with fast, non-drowsy hay fever allergy relief. Turn a half-hearted yes into an all-in yes. Telfast. Live your life.
We all have a story just waiting to be claimed. We are the ones to write the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready, y'all. Get ready. Ready, set, jump to the rhythm as hard as you can go. Steady, to the letter, right? Turn it up. We giving the show.
Hey.
Hey.
What'd I miss?
What? Oh, we've got to tell everyone. Hey, Gracie! Did you know some health insurers are run for profit?
Oh, what?
That's bonkers. Oh, what a quackish.
Sure is. Join HBF today.
As the day breaks,
Australian scientists are leading the way.
The news breaks on Sunrise.
Live now to our team of reporters.
It's where you get what's unfolding.
History being rewritten daily.
It's where the newsmakers turn.
Some breaking news now.
The Team Australia trusts are on Sunrise.
With Queensland's borders closed and Easter rapidly approaching, there's been concern growing about a certain visitor. Thankfully, the Premier has used her special powers.
Well, I have a very special message to the children of Queensland. I have some good news. I've spoken to the Chief Health Officer and the Police Commissioner, and the Easter Bunny has been granted a special exemption to come into Queensland and can cross our borders.
That is good news. It is a first, of course. Rabbits are illegal in Queensland. Always one to pull a rabbit out of the hat. Here's Bertie now with the weekend weather.
Yeah, thanks for that. Not a bad end to the working week today. Plenty of blue sky about. A little bit of cloud moving in tomorrow. We'll check that out shortly. First, today's temperatures. Highs of 32 in the west. About 30 degrees in the city on the Gold Coast. 28 to 29 Bayside, Sunshine Coast. To the charts, it shows Category 1 system Harold tropical cyclone in the eastern Coral Sea. That'll intensify to a Category 2 system tomorrow, not affecting Queensland whatsoever. Great news there. It's the last thing we need at the moment. There is a series of cold fronts and troughs moving through the far southern end of the continent, particularly through Victoria into southern New South Wales. That'll affect areas of central and southern New South Wales tomorrow. We might just see a storm in our regions, more the western districts tomorrow as well. Back to the tropics, highs of 31 for Cairns and Townsville, 29 Mackay, plenty of sunshine also Wide Bay and Capricornia regions. Highs of around 33 degrees for Rockhampton and 29 for Hervey Bay. Back home, we'll see those northwesterly winds coming through, 30 degrees the high, Gold Coast through to Redcliffe. In the city, around 31. And Ipswich 20 to 32. On the water, if you're heading out for a bit of a look-see because you might just want to go and gather some fish, west-northwesterlies 15 to 20 knots. 22 to 31 from Brisbane to the Shower, 2 forecast and ahead. Sunny Sunday, 30 degrees, looking gorgeous, and Monday 28. Ipswich perfect on Sunday and Monday, highs of 31. And of course on the Gold and Sunshine Coasts, 29 to 27, perfect Sunday. That's the day you want to make the most of it. Good night.
Thanks, Bertie. And that's the very latest from 7 News this evening. We leave you tonight with a special tribute to all our amazing frontline workers in these difficult times. From the team, enjoy the weekend and good night.
Frontline workers front of line at Coles stores around the nation today.
So I'm very grateful.
If you don't want COVID, you should stay at home.
Thank those nurses and doctors that help us with all of these hard things in life. It's a big sickness, so we want to thank them with posters.
We need to bring some joy in what we do so that at least we can focus on what's going to be on the other side.
We've been through tough times before.
But this one touches all of us.
We're all in this together. What will make the difference is to do our bit.
Simple actions
like staying at home,
keeping our distance,
washing our hands,
looking out for others.
That will help save lives.
And get us back to our normal way of life.
And 7 News will be there with you every step of the way.